Hello and welcome to day 14 of Yoga for Dad. So Yoga for Dad is for my dad, in memory of my dad, to bring awareness to drug addiction and mental health in our country. Today is story time, and with today's story time I'd like to focus on when my dad was little. So he was really little. I think he was in between the ages of 5 and 7, I believe. My dad at this time lived in New Orleans. And so at this time, this is what my dad said from his perspective as a child. There were oyster shells like everywhere. Oyster shells in your front lawn. There was like oyster shells everywhere. And on this day, they were just sitting on the front porch. There were oyster shells. They were eating oysters, I believe, and they were throwing oysters, and one ricocheted and like hit my dad's eye. There's another version of the story that my mom just told me a couple of days ago that she heard from my granny, is that someone intentionally, like a boy from the neighborhood or something, intentionally threw an oyster shell at my dad's eye, or at my dad, and it hit his eye. So I don't know which version of the story is correct. The important thing is that my dad lost the sight in his eye when he was very young. And he also had to go through a lot of surgeries, like a lot of surgeries. I don't know how many, but my dad said that he was in the hospital as a child a lot. And I think that did something to my dad, because he thought that he was a hypochondriac. And my sister and I used to tease him about it when he was living, how often he was in the hospital and going to the hospital. And I know that some of this played a role in his drug addiction, but these were characteristics from before he even used drugs. My mom used to talk about it when they were together, that he was just a hypochondriac. And it could have stemmed from the fact that he spent a lot of time in the hospital and he had a lot of surgeries when he was a kid. But, just putting that to the side a little bit, I think that was very traumatic for my father, I'm sure, losing his sight in his eye and going through all those surgeries as a child and spending a lot of time in the hospital. But what I wanted to focus on today was the resilience that my dad had, and just the perseverance that he had in his life. He was blind in one eye pretty much his whole life because he was so young when it happened, and he got through high school. He made it into college. He got his BA. And then he went off and got his master's degree, and he was a teacher. He always said that he was a really slow reader. It took him double the time as anybody else because he only had one functioning eye. So I think it was hard, but he did it. And that says a lot about my dad's character, before he started using drugs. And I just wanted to bring that up to everyone's attention, because it's important to not judge people by one story. And my dad definitely was not one story. He was not the sum of his demise. He was many different things, and he was very prideful, especially about his education and being a good teacher. That was important to him. And it's important to just see people as a whole and not just to assume and just judge them on one story that you might know about them or might think that you know about them. So that is my story time today. I will see you next Sunday for another story time. And I will see you tomorrow if you are following the yoga flows. Pretty much every other day I'm posting a small or a short yoga flow, and tomorrow is a 15-minute vinyasa flow. I hope you will join me. And thank you very much for visiting. If you would like to follow through this journey with us, please subscribe and like. And if you would like more information about Yoga for Dad and what we're doing and where the donations are going, everything is in the description. So thank you for joining.